Hi guys, and welcome back from Carly at the Herbathicary. Really good to see you guys again. If you're new to the channel or like the videos, please show your support by hitting like and subscribe down below. It's that crazy time of year again here at the Herbathicary where we are harvesting the last of the season's goodies and preserving them all in various ways. One of my wonderful neighbors had a huge organic apple tree. These are sweet eating apples. So he let us go a scrumping in his garden and we have a huge bag. So today we're going to look at a couple of ways that we process our apples. These ones are just washing in some lemon juice and some warm water, but as you can see we still have plenty left to process afterwards, so let's get on with it. We are down to our final bottle of organic apple cider vinegar from last year. Now apple vinegar and apple cider vinegar are different. As you can see, the mother is at the bottom of this one, so we are going to be doing a different process that not many people use, but I've been using it for about 5 years now to make a lot of apple cider vinegar, and I do find that the processes work just fine for me. So to make proper apple cider vinegar, you do need to make apple cider first. So I've got 5 apples cut in my blender, and I am not going to subject you to the sound of my blender, so by the magic of camera we have apple juice with the pulp. Now you can leave the pulp in, I believe, but I find the process a lot cleaner if you do strain the pulp out first. You've just got the juice. So just through my fine mesh sieve I'm going to pour my apple juice with pulp. And then to get as much of the just apple juice without the pulp into our bottle, I'm just going to grab my spatula. I mean, you could just let it drip through, but I'm just going to move that pulp around. I'm not going to press it because the pulp will come through the sieve. So I'm just moving it around to let the juice fall through. I won't dispose of that pulp though. I will actually just lay it out on a baking sheet and turn that into a little bit of fruit leather later, as my kids really enjoy fruit leather. Now you can just leave it at this process and let the natural yeast ferment it. However, I do find it really speeds up the process if you use a little bit of a brewer's yeast. Do not use a baker's yeast. You want a champagne or a beer yeast. Now we're only making about 200 mils, so I'm only using the tiniest bit of yeast. Will be bubbling away for 4 days to a week, and we don't want anything to get in, but we do want the air to be able to escape as the yeast consumes the sugar and turns it into alcohol. So we are going to grab our airlock and we're just going to top that up with a little bit of water, and this will allow the air to bubble up but nothing to actually come in. So don't forget to pop your lid on the top there and then give it a good clean. We want everything to be clean in the process, and then the bubbles will rise up but nothing will be able to get in. And I'll just leave this on my counter for about a week, checking it daily until the bubble is stopped and all the sediment has dropped to the bottom. So on to the second process I mentioned, and the way I speed it up is I have this 8-liter jar that I cannot fit an airlock on as it's huge. I'm sure I could purchase something that would enable that, but I find that this process, once I've made the apple cider, there's entirely enough in there for it to turn it into apple cider vinegar, and my mother forms perfectly. So I'll only use half of this and then redo the process afterwards, making some more apple cider for the other half. So I am just cutting my apples roughly. I am coring them. The ones that have damaged peels I'm not putting in. The ones that have nice peels, they can all go in. So I'm going to fill my jar just over halfway, I think. I might have misjudged the amount of apples that I had, because this, once I push it down, is looking closer to 3/4 of the way. And as this cutting process has taken so long, you can see some of the apples are browning, but that's just the oxidization. As the air touches the peels, I don't find that this affects the taste at all. You could obviously go through the process of sticking everything in lemon water to try and avoid the oxidation, but again, I don't find that an issue. Now, as I am using so many apples for this, it normally says for a pint jar you use 1/4 cup of sugar, but as I have so many more, I'm actually using close to 1.25 cups. So I'm just going to cover the top of my apples with that. Now, again, when it comes to the water, you'd rather not use tap water. So I'm just using bottled water for this process. But if you only have tap water, you can leave it overnight. So fill your jar up the day before, leave it overnight, and let as much of the chlorine evaporate. So I've just kind of covered the top of those. So I'm just going to give them a push down, make sure there's no gaps, no air bubbles, see if there is enough water or if I have to top it up more. I do want to keep my apples submerged, although I've heard that that isn't exactly necessary, but they don't quite fill, well, the water didn't quite fill or cover them totally, so I'm just going to top it up with a little bit more, but I don't want to go all the way to the top because, like I said, I am going to weigh my apples down and that will make the water level come up, and then we'll also have the issue of the bubbling and the juices coming out, so we do want some space. So I'm just going to give them a good push down and make sure that there are no air bubbles in there. And then you can buy these fancy glass weights that you can stick down on the top to keep the things under. But I'm just using a clean mason jar, which I'm going to fill with water to keep them submerged. And then to let air escape and stop any fruit flies coming in, because we still do have them about this time of year, I'm just using a cheesecloth and an elastic band firmly attached over the top. And I am just going to pop these aside while the bubbles flow up. You'll see them in a couple of days, and it's just going in corner of my pantry where the weather doesn't change so much or the temperature doesn't fluctuate so much, and I'll pop them aside until my actual apple cider is ready. So it's a week later, and please excuse the filming on this one. I didn't have my tripod with me today, but that apple cider has been sitting on the shelf for a week. I've been checking on it daily. It's been bubbling away nicely, and it has that great apple cider smell. All the sediment has dropped to the bottom, although there was a little bit of excess yeast that didn't get used at the top, but it smells absolutely perfect. So all I'm doing at this stage is filtering out as much of that sediment and pulp as I can. So I've got my cheesecloth. Now, if you pour it slowly, you can actually avoid it. But as I don't want to get any of that yeast or anything in there, I do use my cheesecloth at this point. And then again at this stage, as you move from the anaerobic to the aerobic process, you can just let it happen naturally, but I find it speeds up a lot quicker if you add some of your previous apple cider vinegar or some of the mother from an apple cider vinegar. So I add to this amount about 1.5 tablespoons of a previous apple cider vinegar. I find this speeds it up by at least 1.5 weeks. But now, as we have finished with the yeast, we now go to the aerobic process, I believe, and this is the unconventional way that I do it. As I said, at this stage you can just put the cheesecloth over and the elastic band again, and you can let it do its own thing. But as my apple cider, or my apple vinegar rather, has been coming along quite nicely and is already bubbling, what I do is I top up the apple vinegar or apple cider that I've made with some of that apple vinegar. Now, I said, as you can see, the mother is already forming, and this is only 3 days later, so this process works fine for me. And I double the amount of apple cider vinegar that I've actually made just by doing the two processes at the same time. Now, you can just try the one, or you can try this one afterwards and see how it works for you. The next way that we process our apples is a very simple applesauce that my neighbor's triplet boys absolutely love. So do my kids. So in my pot, I've got 30 mils of lemon juice from concentrate. So you want a store-bought one, and about 300 mils of water. And I've got this big stack of apples. So I am going to peel and core all of these because you can remove the peels afterwards. However, I just feel that this is so much quicker. So instead, I'm using the apples that have a bit bruised skin. So I'll keep the ones with the nice skins for afterwards. I've just allowed them to simmer for about 20 minutes until all those apples are nice and soft. You can pop these through a food processor if you like it fine, your applesauce, but we like a little bit of chunk in ours, so I just use the potato smusher and give them a good smush. I then simmer them for a little while to reduce that sugar or water content, and then I add the smallest amounts of sugar. Now you can add other herbs and spices at this point if you like some cinnamon in yours or some ginger or anything like that, but I find that the kids like it quite plain, so I'm just going to stick with that. Now I will be canning up some later, some water bath canning to preserve it, but this first jar is just going straight to my neighbor for the kiddies, so there's no need to do that. But I also find if the applesauce is quite warm at this point, the can seems to seal itself, so I'm just decanting some into a can, and this one will be consumed before it has any chance of going off. As always, don't forget to label, date and refrigerate once cooled. I find that this has lasted in the fridge for a couple of months actually. However, it will not last that long in her fridge as those three boys are hungry. So the last thing we do if we've got any leftovers is we dry them. Now to stop them oxidizing, I'm going to use 1 part lemon juice, remember store-bought lemon juice, to 2 parts water, and I'm just going to soak them while I'm chopping them so they don't go brown. Now you can do this any way you like. With the damaged ones, I do take the peels off and I just cut them into pieces, but you do want them uniform in size so that they all dry about the same time. With the ones with the nice healthy skins like this one, it's got no bruises or anything else, I just cut them into rings. Now I don't have any fancy smancy decor or thing, so I literally just cut those rings out or those core bits out as neatly as I can. I leave the peels on for these as some of my kids do like them. Everything gets a good soak in that lemon juice water bath until I'm ready to process them. It doesn't completely stop the oxidizing. I found this process, apparently there are others like using salt, but that makes it salty. But they're nowhere near as brown as the leftover bits that I've been popping in that jar. So they'll just sit there until I'm ready. And as my dehydrator is absolutely full to the brim at the moment, I really should invest in another. And for another purpose, it's beginning of September and we still have a lot of fruit flies around, so I do like to dehydrate fruit in the oven on a low setting. So I've just got a baking sheet with some greaseproof paper and I'm going to put my oven on the lowest setting that will go, and I'm just going to pop these in the oven until they're dry. I do find that it takes less time in the oven than it does in the dehydrator, but remember you do want to have them as dry as you possibly can before storing. Although I'm pretty sure this batch won't even make it into storage, my kids absolutely love them and they are a great alternative to potato chips. Let us know in the comments down below if you've tried any of these recipes, how they worked out for you, or what your favorite way to preserve the season's apples are. We don't want them to go to waste, do we? Our very exciting news here at the Apothecary. Most of you know 2 weeks ago we released our first ebook, Raiding Nature's Medicine Chest, 8 plant-based recipes that every medicine chest is missing. It includes an antifungal, a bites and stings cream, a sleep aid, a pain balm, so many wonderful recipes that we've used here in our house for the last 10 years. I am currently working on the next edition, which is Raiding Nature's Pantry, but this copy can be ordered either in Word or PDF by either emailing us at theapothecarynaturalhealth@gmail.com or by visiting us on our Facebook page, which is Natural Health at Home at the Apothecary, and I will put links in the description box below. Thank you guys again for all your support. Again, everyone who's already ordered their copy and the wonderful feedback. We really appreciate it. You encourage and enable us to keep putting out more content, and we really, really enjoy sharing what we've learned over the last 10 years with you. Again, thank you guys for coming back to the Apothecary. It was great to see you again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.